Well, Gibson have done it again, haven't they? Um, I woke up this morning to the news of the most accurate recreations of the legendary patent applied for humbuckers ever made. Gibson is selling 1959 PAFs. And guess what? They're not from 1959. They are recreations. That is really a novel concept, is it not? So, jokes apart, right? I've made a couple of videos on Gibson, on the new iteration of the Gibson company ever since the bankruptcy. And this is the latest development, and I think this is a good chance for me to tell you the conclusion that I've come to. I've put it all together, a little bit based on my own experience. I had a 15-year career, and I have a 15-year career rather in marketing. So I'm going to give you a little bit of that insight into what Gibson is doing. So let's get a couple of things out of the way. Is this new 1959 recreations from Gibson going to break any new ground? They have a lot of things. We have used a combination of 3D scanning, scientific analysis, reverse engineering, blah blah blah, of original examples. Not really. I don't think so. I think Gibson has many strengths, brand equity, history, but engineering is not one of them. They have not made a single innovation since the 50s. So I would rather trust many other boutique makers, or if you're talking about mainstream companies, someone like PRS, because those guys actually take quality and engineering very very seriously, and that is evident when you play a new PRS guitar versus if you play a new Gibson guitar. So no, I don't think they're going to be any different or any better than any other PAF clone out there. But importantly, they're going to be the original. And this gets me to the point. If you think of what has happened to Gibson post bankruptcy, I think it was 2018 or whatever the date was, a few years ago. It's not that they have become a better manufacturing company. It's not that they're making better guitars. It's not that they have solved their problems on quality control. None of that has happened, yet they are wildly more successful in my opinion. And I haven't seen the numbers, but this is a qualitative assessment, but I think it would be fairly accurate. And I think what they have done much better is they have become a much better marketing company. And the reason they've become a much better marketing company is they have really understood their customer. And it has been really, when I thought about it, and actually it was also well expressed on a comment in one of my videos. They have realized that none of the customers, very few of them, or rather a lot of them, are not interested in buying a new Gibson guitar with innovations and progressions and all of that. No, that's not what they're interested in. Everybody wants a vintage Gibson guitar, and we know the reasons for it: nostalgia, cultural significance. It's a long list. So the insight is, no one wants a new Gibson. They all want vintage Gibsons. So hell, let's just sell them vintage Gibsons. Now that's not possible because you can't make a vintage guitar. But hey, they've done a great job, because what they have done is, through recreations, which are not really recreations. You can see some of my earlier videos about my opinions on things like the Greenie and so many other things. You can't actually recreate a vintage guitar. You can't recreate age. You can fake it. You can pretend. You can create a lot of hype. You can bang guitars with nails and keys and all of that. And to the willing audience, they are willing to partake in the fantasy with you. They will partake to say that, okay, I can't really get a vintage Gibson because supply is low, hype is high, so the prices are very high. But this banged up, aged, relict thing called a Murphy Lab is actually okay. Yeah, it's like a vintage guitar. It's not really. It just isn't. It can't be. It's not been. Uh, the wood has not been aged for that particular period of time. If anything, manufacturers that have a better drying process, someone like a Music Man or a PRS probably has a more vintage like wood because the wood is probably much drier than anything used on a Gibson. So it's a fantasy. It's a fantasy that Gibson knows that its customers will partake in. And again, I repeat, the fantasy is everybody wants a vintage Gibson. Most can't afford it. Not most, everyone can't afford it. I can't afford it. But I'm willing to partake in the fantasy that this new guitar Gibson is selling me is a vintage Gibson or is like a vintage Gibson because it's been damaged or aged. I'm not making a specific value judgment against relicking or aging in general. I'm just saying you may like a relic guitar, you may not like it. That's all right. But it's a fantasy if you think it's like a vintage guitar. It just is not. And similarly, you may like the new humbucker, the 59 PAF that Gibson is giving you, is launching in this 2024 NAMM. But please do not be confused that this is anything like an original PAF, any more so than a 5815 low turn from a PRS or whatever is the best other boutique humbucker maker. There's so many of them. So that's the thing. Recognize this. Gibson is doing an amazing job. As a marketer, I respect the hell out of how they have figured out their customer. So if there is a part from a professional perspective, I'm like, okay, they've really understood their customer. They're doing a great job. As a guitarist, I call bullshit. So that's how I look at it. All right. I hope this was fun and helpful. Till next time.